Welcome, 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 everyone, to another Tuesday's adventure into reality. David is off today, taking care of a bunch of things that he needs to take care of. Today, I am joined by Martina Grubmueller. She is a longtime mentorship student, similar to Dave Farrow, who was on our last Thursday show. Today, we're going to be going into an in-depth conversation about the vagus nerve, internal demons, external demons, programs, entities, and giving you a metaphorical, hypothetical metaphor in which to understand and not be angry at this broad subject matter. Martina, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful. So everyone that's listening right now, we have provided a document titled Skype Conversation 51920 Agencies, Vagus Nerves, Schumann Resonance, etc., etc. This document was a conversation Martina and I had in text with a number of other people, and they were asking me specifics about karmic entanglement, energies, and then the variety of people that call. You can tell that have a variety of internal, self-created, external demons, and a couple of other situations and scenarios where you can clearly realize that the person is being run by something that's shame, blame, guilt, internally created, that they're stuck in a cycle and can't get out of. So this document we provided here is reference that we're going to be going over and expanding on manyfold. So the first thing I want to say is what we're presenting is a hypothetical metaphor. Why? It is very easy to get angry at anything related to the word entity, demon, or any other adjective that describes something that's taking away from your sovereign power. This metaphor and hypothetical scenario is there for you to help you understand without directing anger at it. If this type of information challenges you in fear or paranoia, you may have some relation to the subject matter that's coming up. And it's a way for you to do inner work, self-healing and self-nurturing without finding very advanced forms of fear. Martina, you want to give people a quick introduction of who you are and a little bit, and then we'll get into it?
Yeah. I'm basically a change catalyst, I think, to say it in a broad spectrum. And what I have been doing all my life, I've been looking at finding a coherent way of human embodiment, and also of getting more and more interested in the galactic and the universal potential, trying to reach that. And that's what I'm teaching. That's what when I work with people along those lines. And it comes with all the various roles.
And you're a healer too. You've got the Bowen method and a bunch of other hands-on healing techniques, yoga built into you, stuff you've been practicing for years and years. And you've been a mentorship student since early 2018, and I've known you since 2015?
Yeah, I think I had my first reading with you in 2014, actually.
March 2014. Yeah. Very interesting session. Yes. And here we are, all these years later, and going at this next level here. All right, so if you are in the Zoom chat room, you will see a link for the document. If you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, there will be a link to the doc that allows you to go and download it and view it. We're using this document as a reference, information for you to take home, but we're going to greatly expand upon it. If you're one of those people who's a studyaholic, actually likes to do this material, it will be very beneficial for you to write down questions during this time. We will answer questions and take callers later on, but go back and transcribe this show. We're doing this show for a specific reason. We are at a level, a time, and place and space time where when we begin to look at the unseen, we can't allow it to make us afraid. We want to unveil what's behind the curtain without you going, I hate you assholes on the other side. You can't do that. If you were immediately going, I hate you assholes on the other side for this information, you have already gone into charge and polarity and already lost the point of why we are trying to expose this. Okay? So Martina, when the setup of this conversation is we had our mentorship call and we do what was called the hot seat. Or the roasting. And you had gone through an intense roast, and you asked the nature of a question about the difference between programs. And you want to set up the first question there?
Yeah. We were talking about entanglements, you know, and that question came up. So what is actually the difference between consciousness entanglement and what is the program?
Everyone, take a think about it. Consciousness entanglement in a program. Now I'm going to read what my initial text response is, and then Martina and I are going to expand on this very high level here. Okay. A program may or may not be consciously entangled. It depends on how empowered with life force the program is. The more we are out of our body and letting the program run us, the more it is entangled with our vagus nerve. The vagus nerve gives it access to our special skills, which often creates a confusion of what is the soul and what is the program. In the caller's case, they lost control of programs and body control from nightmares long ago. When I flipped the frequency with what's called the peacemaker card in the repeat after me scenario, it broke down the two sides into clear programs and clear I am. The I am feels emotion, the program does not. The external entity runs the program and was booted from the vagus nerve long enough for there to be a system reset. Karma determines growth and veracity of actions that entities take when they take over programs. At times, entities don't know that they are being run by karma. It is easy to get lost between what is an internally created and what is an external entity. So that was our setup for that conversation. And then we went in, what is the difference between an internal self-created demon and an external? Martina, let's talk about that first. An internal created demon versus an external.
An internal created demon. Okay, so do we want to, as an internal created demon could be shattered soul shards, shattered I am shards that have lost the authority to actually work with an agency, and we're going to go into the agencies a bit later on. So they then just go, they've gone awry basically, and they just start attaching and creating, you know, things, programs, and even consciousness entanglements, depending on the intensity of the life force that the external demon, you know, the self-created demon inhabits, if you wish.
Obsessive compulsive disorder is an example of an ever-evolving internal demon that gets stronger and stronger and stronger. If I don't do this repetitive compulsion, something very bad will happen. Let's look at that as a mechanic. That's what creates internal demons that get stronger and stronger and stronger the more life force and authority you give them in your reality. Oftentimes they are created by trauma, but also they are created by raw ego too.
Yeah. And that's what they then actually take over. They're taking over the ego, basically, you know.
Right. And then their goal is to get into the vagus nerve. It is where the core, or the I am energy, the consciousness is in, that runs the DNA instrument of experience. And when an internally self-created demon gets into the vagus nerve, it is filled with life force and begins to think it's the soul.
Yeah. Now, there's something really interesting. We've mentioned it there, is that if you are out of your body quite a bit, and that happens to all of us, it's invitation for that to happen more than if you're really, really present within your body. So that's a really good point, you know.
So in the example of OCD, when you are doing the OCD action, are you in your body or not?
No, I'd say no. You're actually already, you know.
You're letting the program do it as an experience.
Exactly. So that would be, yeah.
You don't have the authority to stop it.
Yeah. And then we were also saying, you know, because that might even start people to say, oh my God, you know, as soon as you use the word demon and all of that. But this is a program that can be changed. So it's not something, you know, and it's interesting because you were saying something in terms of, I said, it's very easy for anybody to change that. And it's quite interesting. You said it depends on the DNA skin suit at times, if they can, you know, do it by themselves or if they need some help. And that's quite an interesting one.
And the DNA skin suit will determine how much karma is holding them back as negative consciousness strands. And this is where the concept of agents and agencies come up, which we're going to get into in a second. Now let's talk about external entities and how they externally ruling internal programs, because this is the setup of what's coming up next. So an external entity is literally something that is external of you. Now there are times that soul shards are from other lifetimes, which are technically external of you, but they have a frequency, harmony, and vibration match to something inside you, which is an unhealed state. That external source, which is an external entity, finds it very easy to imitate being you. Okay, that's one type. And then there's the fully external source, something that's a discarnate, discorporeal being who's there to feed on life force and harvest things all over the many layers of reality that's in. Oftentimes, external entities are looking for programs to abuse within you. Okay, let's talk about, both you and I have seen all sorts of entities, self-created, internal, external, and define what an external entity is.
Yeah, I think you just did that to a certain extent. You know, it's where I've actually, to be honest, let me just. So that's it's a life. You just explained the demon now, didn't you?
A demon, in my cosmology, is something that has gone from only knowing one or two ways to harvest energy, being a basic ghost, to learning tens of thousands of ways to harvest energy and having minions underneath it who tithe energy up. That's a demon.
Yeah.
Old and knows many ways to manipulate energy and people, places, and things.
Yeah. And this is where you're saying, I remember the I am, it could be an I am that did not want to pass over.
Correct.
Okay.
Generally an I am, off-world, on-world, doesn't matter, something that has stopped its astral world transition into its ancestorship, and it is remaining an entity that can't fully produce its own light. Therefore must begin a parasitic journey.
Yeah. Exactly. So it can't maintain its own body, and that's why it is starting to cipher off the energies from everybody else. So how does that actually, what is a ghost in all of that? That sounds a bit ghosty, doesn't it?
It is a ghost. A ghost only knows one or two ways to manipulate energy around it.
Yeah.
And it can't make physical manifestations because it's too much energy for it to put out.
Yes. So that's the distinction then between a ghost and a demon, is basically the capacity of ciphering of life forms as such, life energies.
And then giving energy too. Part of what demons do is they will give you a boost of energy and then take a whole bunch later.
Yeah. Yeah. This is why we always say there's always a value in the beginning. We don't want, I always said, I don't want people to get all, fearful about demons, because there was always a value attached to that at some stage, why they were contracted out to them. And then there comes the time where that is no longer necessary, and that is the level of awareness where we need to acknowledge that.
Okay, so now we're going to go a little deeper. What is the sympathetic and parasympathetic relationship as part of the DNA instrument of experience? This is where the rules often get blurred, obscured, and violated. Karma can weigh heavily on the development of systems early in life, which sets up job hunters to fill roles. Job hunters, recruitment agencies, and staffing companies. Now, this is the nature of the conversation. We're going to be referring to recruitment agencies, source staffing agencies, as something that is there to help the synchronistic flow of the universe and the fetus in the blueprints thing to keep you on track. Now, as soon as I brought this concept up, everyone in the text conversation was like, huh? What is this? What does this really mean? Let's give people a reference of job hunter, recruiting agency, before we delve deep into that, based off of what we've already talked about.
Okay, so basically there are the three elements where you got the human, and then you got the middleman, the agency, and let's just call it agency. And then you got the employee of the agency, which would be the entities. That's the way we looked at it.
Yeah.
Now, the agencies, and that's a really big point, the agencies are pre-I-Am.
Key to understanding, pre-I-Am.
So explain that a bit more to people. And they're outside of time.
So
because the I-Am, let me just make that, the I-Am is actually finite. And the agencies are outside of time, infinite. So you're constantly working, you know, with the agency. So that makes us the multidimensional beings that we are.
correct.
But a bit more on that.
So pre-I-Am is fetus in the womb, and then the fetus in the womb goes through birthing and the great forgetting. But for the first 2 years after the great forgetting, the fetus in the womb is still linked to the I-Am, begins unfolding at around 2 years old. So oftentimes in the very beginning, a fetus will this big plan, and they know that they're going to need good, bad, and different things. So they will make a series of contracts. You know, my mom's going to give me my bottle late on Thursday, April 28th, when I'm 1 year old, which is going to piss me off as a baby. I'm going to fart and shit all day long. And then my bottle's going to come late again. And then I'm going to call my staffing agencies, customer support, and going, what's wrong with my mom? The baby, in a forgetful state, realizes that the mom has challenges also. And then the baby goes, I need to change some of these things if my bigger plan is going to come to fruition, which is karmas that I need to resolve, people that I need to meet. My bottle needs to be on time. So I have this thing built into my circadian rhythms early on. Okay. Now, an agent is something that works for an agency. And once again, do not direct fear at a hypothetical metaphor. An agent who works for an agency who's outside of time. Is mom the agent? Technically, no. Mom is who you contracted with, and the agency has a representative that holds the contracts in the unseen world, so synchronicities flow around you.
Yes. So mom would actually be another I-Am technology who has, you know, is contracted out to her own agencies.
Or the same agency.
Or the same agency, yes, yes.
Okay. The employer is the human. The employees are the entities. The agency is the middleman who holds the contract as pass-through responsibility. The entities often try to take over the company.
Yeah.
This is where so many things get confused. And this is why I decided to use this hypothetical metaphor as this agency, source staffing, okay, for the good, the bad, the indifferent that you need in your infinite synchronistic life. The agency can look through the infinite amount of people and synchronistically align them in your life. Now not all agencies have the same qualities and standards. And this is where we got in depth into the conversation of frequency, vibration, and match. Okay. Are there any external factors in the human working with the agency? Now let's look at that term, external factors, human working with the agency. Yes, the culture you're working with. Very important. Example, if you're in an Indian or a Muslim culture, you have radically different than if you were in a German or a British culture. Okay, those type of cultural external factors determine the theme in which agents and agents of the agency who will headhunt people to synchronistically interact with you, your first boyfriend, girlfriend, your third grade teacher, or the one substitute teacher that comes in there and pisses you off when you're in 5th grade, whatever it is, the person that changes a course of action within you.
So you're saying that lots of people who are familiar with your material will have heard of the precognitive workforce. And you just explained the precognitive workforce there a little bit, didn't you?
Right.
It's like a little bit of, you know, I mean, you can't really make huge distinctions here, but just for the sake of understand or trying to cognitize it a bit more, this would be, you know, talking when we talk about the precognitive workforce, you know, where they actually, and I like when you said that, where you actually, they help you line up synchronicities, you know?
Yes.
It's almost like they're the goodies a little bit.
Yeah. So the precognitive workforce has the highest standards and practices.
Yes,
The agencies don't always have that. There are times that you have a contract that can only be resolved in low frequency. And at times you got to go to those low quality agencies on the corner of I don't like that street and holy shit, okay?
Yeah.
And contract the corner agent entity to say, find me the worst.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to say here is that you can sack agencies.
Yes.
So the agencies are not in no way, working against free will here. You have free will here, and you can sack an agency. You can even sack an agent that no longer works for an agency and has actually started to latch on to you directly, because that happens too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Now, when you begin to work with this hypothetical metaphor, you're going to want to know what the first point of contact is. The fetus in the womb is the first point of contact to the agency. At times, the entity has worked with several I-Ams and has a good working relationship or personal file with good or bad marks. So you today were the fetus in your mother's womb. There may be another fetus in another mother's womb that may be you, who has worked with an agency, who has given a file previous hired employees that you may take into this fetus in the womb and begin to make work with. Okay. So does that make sense to you, Martina?
I tried to read it now. I should have just listened. What was that you just read? Can you say this again?
The first point of contact. The fetus in the womb is the first point of contact to the agency. At times, the entity has worked with several other I-Ams and has a good working relationship or personal file with good and bad marks, meaning another you who was another fetus in another mother's womb, worked with an agent and agency and entities, created a file on them, and then the new you, who's in a new fetus in a new mother's womb, has this old working relationship with an agent, agency, and entities who you then may make contracts with through the agency itself. Yeah.
And that's also linking back to, the I-Ams that declared bankruptcy, or the I-Ams that had a hostile takeover in other lifetimes that you're still now trying to recover.
Correct.
That's part of that, because the I-Am, and this is the interesting thing, again, it is when we look at the DNA, as Andrew always says, is 80% memory and 80% technology.
20. 80 is 160.
20, yeah, sorry. I just got excited here. 20% technology, and for me that has been a real big thing to have that conversation, because I was always interested, what is the 20% technology? And that is the celestial codes. That is the celestial codes to other I-Ams that are being sort of integrated, that you can integrate through that agency metaphorical understanding.
Right. So we're going to talk more about hostile takeovers and bankrupt I-Am selves in just a second. We want to set the context. So then I was asked the question, is the agency reading the fetus and therefore plans its experience? No. Are Archons involved at this stage? Because we're already getting people who are asking Archon questions. Archons are the lowest quality and standard agency out there. So they can use the most minimalistic of a match to fuck you over. Okay. The fetus works hand in hand with the agency to find the right thing to fit the resolution. The closer the agency gets to a perfect, the better score the agency gets for the next contract. Think of Archons as bad, low-quality temp agencies. So is that where the collusion is? That was the question. Perfect being found at the right match for the soul karma. This creates source staffing or outsource staffing, meaning the fetus itself cannot have full awareness of an outsourced staff's plan other than that there's a contract to engage it before it's 2 years old, after it's 2 years old. When the fetus is born and reaches about 2 years old, it is no longer in direct contact with the first point of contact in the agency. The I am baby, learning who it is on the job, meets its source staffing customer service representative and goes, hey, mom, why is she... My mom is not what she said, and dad's an asshole, and there's no dog. Simple stuff at first. So once again, the I am has to take over first point of contact. But the agency was the fetus, was the first point of contact. So think of in a business term, first point of contact when you're working with someone. Let's expand upon this stage, that first point of contact. That sets up bankruptcies and all that other stuff.
So the I am, what is the I am? And you know, in order to answer that question, I would need to ask the question, what is the I am? And the I am, you know, when we talk about the body being the vehicle of the DNA experience, yeah, like a vagus nerve if you wish, the I am is the driver on the vagus nerve.
Experience, driver of the experience.
The driver of the experience or the mechanism of the experience. Correct?
Yeah, and this is why programs can suddenly think they're the I am, because they're driving like an autopilot, but they're not really the I am.
Exactly, and then the body thinks, you know, it is the soul, like you said earlier on, you know. So it's the I am is part of the responsibility when we talk about awareness, taking responsibility for the level of awareness, is we're actually saying taking responsibility for the level of your I am.
Right. And as a baby, your I am has unfettered access to its burgeoning, new growing vagus nerve. As we get older and older, we create bloatware or crappy operating systems and traumas that block us from full access for whatever reason. The nature of industrialized technological life, or, you know, versus a living off the land in, you know, hunter-gatherer state.
Okay? Exactly.
Okay.
Go ahead. And as you get older, you go into the puberty. You might have a puberty agency working with you, because they do change as you go along. And then it becomes the level of you having the awareness, what is required, which agencies are you actually working with?
Correct. So I'm going to get to the next part here. So the I am is fully in the vagus nerve. As the I am gets older, they get access to different layers of source staffing agencies, management, who can change the terms of service of accounts, cost, oftentimes at puberty, when the I am fires the staffing agency. Okay? So there's a bit of deception, and the soul gets to agree to come into a particular... This is where most people fire their staffing, their initial staffing agency right around the puberty time. Why? Your I am is starting to say, I have to be a sovereign being. And this is that 20% driver technology of going, how sovereign am I going to really be this lifetime? There was an infinite fetus planning, a greater resolution. And if I can get 10% sovereignty back from all these other I ams, this means I have to work with this staffing agency, this shitty, have this crappy life, or have the white picket fence life and say, fuck karma.
Yeah.
Those are the wide variety of choices. Now let's just focus on firing the staffing agency at puberty.
Well, I was just going to say, you know, at this stage, at this level of awareness, would you say most of that happens on a subconscious level?
Yes, it does, because of the amount of hormones that are driving whatever.
Exactly. So when we talk about firing an agency, that's not something you literally decide, you know? What does that actually
unless they've been haunted since a young age, have had some really advanced psychic skills, communications, like you had lots of communications, and many other people, the mystical and the fear in some of the mystical has drove them to go, no, I'm shutting the shit down. That's firing the agency.
Okay, so but what would that look like in terms of, for people, you know, what would that actually look like in terms of go for a therapy, or, you know, have an accident or something like that, you know, to put it into context?
It can be such a wide variety of things. Current generations, they go to therapy and get drugged.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago, you were called crazy and you were the emo kid on the outside. 40 years ago, you know, they hit you on top of the head, put you in a white lab coat and drugged you and did experiments on you.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone figured out how to hide it differently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Like you couldn't tell your internal stuff to everyone that was around you when you were growing up, could you?
No, and to be honest, I had no awareness of it either, what was going on. If I would have known then, I would have, you know, but I didn't. It took me another 30 years to figure that.
But there are kids who see the negative entities and they scare the shit out of them.
Yes.
And then they go to shut the vagus nerve down and create these programs that put a cork on it. So the I am is there doing the things it has to do, but whenever it doesn't need to be there, the programs are running them.
Yeah. Do you want to say a bit more on that one sentence, which I remember is the I am is fully in the vagus nerve? Do you want to say a bit more on that one?
The vagus nerve is essentially the underwear and undershirt of the I am.
Mm-hmm.
To operate the body with special skills, that's where the I am is housed, in the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve has access to the entire consciousness DNA experience machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the control room.
Get that. That is amazing. So any type of work you can do with regards to the vagus nerve is powerful.
Exactly. The vagus nerve is your control room. You know, and again, I come up with these metaphors because people here, we wear these skin suits. You do wear it. But does clothing make a difference in the experience? Absolutely, it does.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, absolutely, it does. It allows us to experience all these different layers of information coming to us that amplifies memories that are chemical memories that can become long-lasting light memories, so that hundreds of I ams in the future can know that this memory was powerful.
So, okay, I don't want to lead you off track, but can I just ask one question? No, sure. I'll ask it later. Don't worry about it. Carry on.
So 1 second, we want to let everyone know, if you're listening on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Periscope, and want to come and join the Zoom room, they're right on your screen right now. Go to www.zoom.us. The meeting number is 911-001-1974. Or if you want to dial in from the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, there are the dial-in numbers for you. We will be taking questions only from the Zoom room. So if you are anywhere else and want to come and be a part of the Q&A session inside the chat room, please come and join the Zoom room. So, Martina, we've now been going for a half hour, and we've blown through half this document already as a setup, okay? Mm-hmm. So part of the setup is understanding how the I am functions inside the DNA technology, what the I am uses to line up synchronicities, okay? There is think of it as unattainable potentials. So the fetus is creating these things that can be unattainable unless the synchronicities are there. The planning side is about infinite potentials. All too often, the fetus looks for the best, highest way, but along the way, it forgets that it needs solid foundations and contracts for the solid foundation to work long time. The fetus is the one who gets the majority of the metaphorical blame in this hypothetical metaphorical sense, where we're using an agency, source staffing to set up karmic resolution. Okay? At times, staffing agencies has been contracted by previous I-AMs to resolve something in unawareness. The next fetus who becomes an I-AM after forgetting in the birth canal. So this aspect is there are certain things that could only be solved in unawareness, even at the infinite side of the fetus in the contractual womb. Okay? It could be seen both ways. It depends on the elements that impel a cross-generational lesson or resolution. It is semantics and splitting hairs unless you look at each individual situation as separate yet equal to all others. Sometimes former I-Ams have had a corporate hostile takeover, or a former I-Am declares bankruptcy and leaves its legacy to the employees, who are what? Soul shards and staffs and different members of the different I-Am. Okay, so let's expand upon that. And this is where we'll get into bankruptcy and all that other stuff.
Have we got a question? You said so many things now. Where are we going with this?
The former I-Ams that are bankrupt and contracting in future I-Ams in unawareness, which is where so many people get confused and direct anger when they shouldn't be directing anger.
Yes. So that is linking in with the understanding that you are not just flesh and bone skin suit, and there is so much more going on. And that awareness that you have so many different parts, shards, and avatars linked to you, you know, from different lifetimes. I've seen there was a question before. Does it, you know, are there different other lifetimes? Of course, there are different lifetimes. Yes, involved in that, because we're talking about I-Ams here, you know, from a different lifetime, and I-Am technology from a different lifetime that we're just saying, you know, went bankrupt. So I'm not entirely sure where we want to take that.
So let's talk what a bankrupt I-Am is. Someone that gave up.
Someone, yes, okay.
And let the programs run them for an entire life.
Yes.
And then in their post-life review, they probably chose to not cross over right away and were temporarily a ghost, which created a longer form of shattering and soul shards. And then something happened to make it a crossed over I-Am that didn't have one point of contact. It ceded authority to its programs as a dead person.
Yes.
Okay?
Now, that's really important to understand here, because once we are out of the skin suit, once we get out of this I-Am technology, we become part of the sea of consciousness again, you know? That doesn't necessarily mean, though, that you're perfectly healed just because you're pure consciousness again as such, you know? This is exactly what you're saying here.
Right.
So those shards still want to be healed. They want to be either integrated in the I-Am presence now, if they have a contribution to make, or sent into different universes or something. I don't know what you want to do with them.
Correct. So there are times that a living person now has become a bankrupt I-Am now, or has ceded all authority away to something else. So their I-Am presence here now has the power to boot out all other I-Ams if they are trying to run their agenda through I-Am presence now, or corrupt staffing agencies, soul families, or other soul family staffing agencies. Now, what this really means is an I-Am at any point can go into the vagus nerve and begin the journey of self-mastery, self-healing, self-nurturing, and kick out the negative programs that are in there. Which is like, you know, if you've ever lived in a snowy country, you got to keep plowing and plowing and plowing the roads. It's a continuous set of work. Okay? It's not just something that you just clap your hands and it's all done. If you think of instant gratification as clearing your vagus nerve, you've lost the whole point of self-healing, self-nurturing, self-mastery. It always is going to come back to that. There are times that you have given authority to a protective part of you, a program, self-created demon, that takes the authority and says, I get to work with the staffing agencies, you don't, and doesn't fill you in on any of the emails or memos. Now, we hear people in our callers all the time, things that are just happening shitty in their life because they're not in their I-Am. So I-Ams who have had enough soul shards in them, and the soul shards begin to take over the I am spot in the vagus nerve, and then begins contracting with the actual agency in unawareness of the I am that it's making contracts. These are known as false synchronicities.
Yeah, yeah. So this is probably also a good time to mention that the I am technology literally is a technology. And the I am technology, if you're not protecting it as such, can attract, just like any technology, which, your computer, which doesn't have a virus program on it, is open to basically parasitic influences from the outside. And that outside is not necessarily something outside of yourself even, could be part of your I ams from a different lifetime or something. Okay. So it's really important to understand that.
So Martina, on the document, I've just highlighted a section that I want you to read, and we're going to send this section to the, have the audience think about this. So that highlighted blue section, I want you to read that.
That highlighted, okay. So the vagus nerve is the universe in realized potential. The I am must learn to drive the vagus nerve like a race car driver. The vagus nerve is the highway. The Schumann resonance is the speed limit sign or no speed limit sign. The staffing agency like to give speeding tickets without authority and really slow you down. That is you out creating the finite plan. There are construction zones where the I am set up its building phase, and at times the I am creates a rebel who screws up the plans. Now, we are getting into the nitty-gritty of free will staffing here, internal self-staffing. And this is where traumas take over the planning. The fetus gets shut out of this part and tries to get itself back into trust with the I am. These are the blame, shame, guilt, fear agents that exponentially get worse over age. So faith is a component to understanding the levels of separation. And loss of faith, trust, is loss of control of the vagus nerve. The meta teaching on trust, and I think that's something Andrew has mentioned many times, gives it a high level explanation. So now here is where old corrupt staffing agencies are locked out by the I am Rolodex of old sourcing systems. The I am in unawareness has tapped into the corrupt agencies and starts staffing a future through the vagus nerve. Is that it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That system. So that's it. So let's expand upon, I'm sorry, my video's screwing up. So let's expand upon what you just wrote, because this is one of those key things that helps people understand what the I am is here to do. So let's break down those few paragraphs. Okay.
So let's get here. The vagus nerve is the universe in realized potential. Okay, so we have talked about that before. The vagus nerve is really the potential, universal potential that you can, in this lifetime, realize through your level of awareness and through the work.
An I am who's realized is fully in the vagus nerve on the super highway of the self.
Yes.
Okay.
So those speed limits, we were talking about here, with the Schumann resonance, the speed limit sign. Everything can be, all these programs, the shame, blame, guilt, fear programs, they can be limiting. They can limit you, obviously, as you drive, along the vagus nerve. So these are considered, speed limits, if you wish, and those can be taken out.
They can be taken out, or they can be seen as something trying to give you data and input for you to process that is the wrong data and input. Like a lot of the conspiracy theory world are just speed limit signs slowing you down.
Well, yes, and the system of domination and control, you know, like we said here, is an old staffing agency. And all of us so deliberately go, you know, and contract out with that staffing agency, whilst there is already a different level of agencies available to us.
Now, agencies have all different levels of practices and standards. Now, faith is a key component to understanding the levels of separation. Loss of faith, trust is loss of control of the vagus nerve. Once you've lost control of the vagus nerve, you are in a self-faith crisis. Okay? And now there's many examples of self-faith crisis. We see it on the show all the time. We all know individuals, it doesn't matter what they believe in, they're in a crisis of the self. Hesitation and doubt rules them.
Yeah.
Okay? What happens when hesitation and doubt rules a person?
Well, you stop trusting, you stop listening to your inner knowingness, and you go out of coherence, and you know, out of the mind, the heart, and the spirit are no longer working coherently.
And when there is not incoherence, there can be no true resonance to the seen and unseen world that's trying to align synchronicities to you, and you not be paranoid of them.
In other words, you're starting to attract low quality agencies to match your vibrational, you know, frequency harmonic levels.
And the Schumann resonance is there to determine how potent and powerful you can be during an era of or slice of history.
Okay, you need to say more to that.
So the Schumann resonance is a background frequency of electromagnetics that's affected by the solar winds and radiation, natural magnetics of the planet, which give you the highway. And it's only the agencies or internally self-created programs that put up speed limit signs.
Yes.
The highway goes in every direction, but you
Yes.
still have to guide yourself without hesitation and doubt from point A to point B, which is resolution of conscious awareness being equal to your level of responsibility.
Yes. So going with a metaphor here, we talk about the speed limit being set up. Is there a difference between, let's say we're going, give us an example of a construction site. What's the speed limit?
Okay, so let's say you graduate high school and the setup is your parents want you to go to college right away. They don't want you to take a year off.
Uh-huh.
That's a construction zone.
Right.
Do I bypass the construction zone and take the year off and make my own sovereign free will choice, or do I jump right into college?
Yes.
And college is a 4-year construction zone in which all these things have been pre-contracted to happen synchronistically, but at any point in time, you can throw that plan away.
Yes. Cool.
Okay. Other examples of construction zones. Let's say you've decided that spirituality, shamanism, self-healing, self-nurturing is the path that you want to take. You're creating that construction zone to limit the speed of programs who may race out of control and take you off the path of self-healing, self-nurturing, self-mastery.
So is there value to that?
Absolutely. Look what it took for you to get yourself under control so that things weren't racing in different directions, overwhelming you with emotions.
Yes. Now, Andrew, I would say that goes the other way around too, though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's both. It's bidirectional or tridirectional or quaddirectional.
Mm-hmm.
It is how the I Am sets up discipline of the self.
So is that your coining of the, what's that learning? You call it all the time? That...
Self-illuminated master.
Nah, forget. I can't think of the word now. Don't worry about it. Carry on.
So the journey to being a self-illuminated master means you can't let your programs run you out of making something relevant just in a moment. Programs bring up a subject matter that have charge and polarity behind it. And as soon as you give into that, the program is running you. The I Am isn't. The program is in the vagus nerve doing things for you.
Yeah. Curiosity learning.
Yes, when you follow curiosity learning, you are letting programs run you.
Yes, that's okay. So that links in nicely there. So for what because lots of I was always curious what exactly does curiosity learning actually mean? How is it connected? And there's your connection there.
Okay, it's not really you. So let's break down. I'm curious of something.
Mm-hmm.
Are you the neutral observer?
Yes.
No, you're not.
So why?
You already have charge and polarity out of curiosity itself. You're already controlling a subject matter,
right?
Which is right on the edge of unknown, that the brain's going to fill in the unknown before it's known.
Okay, so this goes into, we're probably going off track with that if I ask that, because that would be the feeling part that comes in too. That's where you're connecting to feeling,
Correct.
Where it takes you into polarity, instead of the opposite of all of that would be the harmony, vibration, and frequency teaching, which we probably have time to go into.
Well, we got plenty of time. This is where we set up the frequency, vibration, and harmony teaching.
Okay.
Construction zones are all about frequency, vibration, and harmony. They're there to make you better. They're there to make you better.
Cool.
Okay. There are deconstruction zones too.
Okay, what is that?
Example, a person who's had lifelong traumas and needs to deconstruct those traumas. They need to tear up the old roadways and stop the traffic completely, detour everything through checkpoints and awareness factors, and then the new road is built, and those old pathways, old detour routes are erased. So there's only one neural pathway that has the right choice, right frequency, that doesn't allow programs to make their own path.
Would the walk-in fall into that too?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really. That's a far more complicated way of deconstructing and constructing, and yet letting the DNA instrument of experience house another being who's another form of experience with a dual set of contracts.
Okay, cool.
There could be tens of thousands of agencies involved into a single walk-in.
Right. Good.
Because getting a walk-in is not easy. It requires a lot of spiritual skill. Right.
Okay.
And walk-ins do not run the programs. They're usually run by a series of programs that are part of that 20%. 80% memories and 20% universal systems of evolution and consciousness strands that are required as a space-time equation.
Celestial codes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Cool. Those are the celestial codes.
Cool.
Now, the Schumann resonance is not one number. It's many, like a team dance combination. There is no one common Schumann resonance around the world. All of them make up the orchestra of consciousness. Sometimes you have many orchestras playing different interpretations of the classics, at times other playing remixes. Mountains, lakes, deserts, and rivers alter the Schumann resonance, as well as the seen and unseen life force in those areas. Think of the Schumann resonance as the key musicians are playing in. So from an electromagnetic perspective, can we become capacitors of that resonance in our shamanic practices? Would that be useful? And my answer to that is you're already doing that. So can we use the shaman resonance to find the proper agency? The answer is no. The agency is a choice in awareness and unawareness, or both. The Schumann resonance just determines the veracity of interaction or speed limit signs. At times has nothing to do with the Schumann rates. It is the key or note value that allows things to act in synchronicity, false to real. Best matching actions seen and unseen, so manifestation comes out in the proper level of power needed to resolve. The quality of the agency will determine the power level of the time of action in a key. Our modern light worker community has bastardized the Schumann resonance into something that it is not. Idiots with YouTube PhDs try to hypothesize something into an absolute truth. The Schumann resonance is there to keep all living things, seen and unseen, on a celestial musical key. Free will allows us to explore many keys that can create resonance with the natural way of living, or disresonance. A disresonant state is the cacophony of chaos, and chaos is its own universal key. Let's break that down. The Schumann resonance, seen and unseen manifestation, and how our consciousness operates on a key, universal, natural chaos. This is that harmony, frequency, vibration, resonance teaching.
Cool. So, okay, so this is a real big mouthful. I can't even remember that I wrote that I transcribed that, to be honest. But what I'm looking at that is to simplify that. You know, I remember you asking me the question. We were talking about something, and you said to me, "Are you a match to this frequency? Are you a match to that?" And that was a very interesting question. Are you actually a match to what we are discussing here in order to take it further? And then we got into looking, what is frequency? What is vibration? What is harmony? Right? Mm-hmm. So if I recall that now, the frequency is the spark of whatever you're saying, whatever you're being, creates a spark, an impact, a potency, and that is what the frequency is. I'm actually thinking, can we, and tell me if we can't, but can we compare it with taking a stone and throwing it into the water? So if I take a stone and I throw it into the water, the frequency would be the spark that, you know, the intensity that that stone creates. Then we have the vibration, and the vibration would be that how far does it expand out over time? So let's say, for instance, you know, whatever we're discussing here creates a spark in someone. And then the question is, how long will it take for them to forget about that or to actually maintain or integrate that? That would be the vibration. And then the harmony, the way I understood it, is that has a time-space equation to it. You know, it's like you could say, and you do this so often, you could say something now that actually has implications and understandings, memories, if you wish, in the future.
Yes, but the laws of frequency, vibration, and harmony do not include consciousness as an entanglement. You can be a vibration match, a harmony match, or a frequency match individually, connectively, or separately, and it have nothing to do with your consciousness. Your consciousness gives consent, but the universal laws of frequency, vibration, and harmony can match you without your consciousness entanglement, because that's the laws of the universe. Like attracts like, dislike creates a disresonance, and it creates a natural separation of frequency, vibration, and harmony, which is the Schumann resonance, allowing us to separate or go through this fractalization process.
Yes. So this is really, really now looking at, this goes beyond the I am.
Correct.
Because the I am is finite. Now, this goes beyond the I am. And it's nice to just have something to compare it with, you know?
So let's ask the audience the same thing I did to you. What makes you, individual audience members right now, a match for listening in this time-space equation today? So go on to the chat room and type, what makes you make yourself a match? 1- and 2-word answers are shitty light workers. Okay? 4-word answers are just above shitty answers. You got to put a little potency behind your answer. And those that answer love and light, God, you're delusional. Come on. Use your cognitive power. Okay? Yes, I can speed read. So when I was trying to get you to understand what makes you a match, there was the variety of things that still made it consciousness based. And I set it up for you. It's not about the consciousness. Now, our staffing agencies sometimes work at the universal source level because we are universal beings resolving huge universal karmas at times. And the I am just happens to be the time-space cognitive manifestation in unawareness of all this stuff that's fractalizing around you. And spirituality is beginning to make sense of that infinite fractal or great mystery and begin to be clued into its moods, themes. The great mystery is never really going to be solved, but it's going to give you some good foreshadowing. Okay? And sometimes even predictions.
And there's a clue. There's a clue. I'm going to give you a clue. The collective consciousness or the individual consciousness is a limitation. You've got to think beyond that.
So perfect. The individual consciousness is the limitation.
Yeah.
Aha.
That was a big aha moment. Like,
exactly. Okay. So I'm gonna make some blue thing, and I want you to read the next.
Oh God,
part.
I have to find this. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what is in blue for you? I want you to read that. So now we just hold on. We just finished talking about agencies, Schumann resonance, and now we're going to be talking about, this is the answer, the next question and the next answer. Go ahead.
So is this so it's basically?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically a carrier wave for a given region. I know that in absence of this frequency, we as humans become ill. Can the same be said in terms of our frequency is too far out of alignment with the resonance frequency of an area? And when it comes to the mass meditations that are spiking this frequency, it's basically just because a lot of beings are hitting their instruments at the same time. Long story short, the carrier wave has many sub-carrier waves that relate to your time-space equation as a 7 or 8 color time being. During mass meditation, many sub-carrier waves try to force the main carrier wave to conform. If the mass carrier wave does not conform, it allows the many to become chaos. And the chaos is run by the universal key. So keep the vagus nerve tuned and let the I am explore consciousness at the scale and size it is prepared for, which ties into coherence. So both on a personal and collective level. So we're not just creating noise, but rather creating music. When everyone uses their instruments, not all have the same intentions or level of awareness if their impact on the seen and the unseen worlds. How does this impact the energies we're sending out into the cosmos? Is that it?
Keep going. There's a little bit more.
Keep going, because I lost the color. Great questions. And this is why so many off-worlders are here now. It has affected them in ways we don't understand as of yet. We can say that Universal Staffing Agency is sending in top quality managers and staffers. So kind of like the TV on the background, just playing whatever. It impacts us on some level, though we're not focusing on it. It can make us slightly irritated if it's jarring noises.
Just the last two paragraphs now.
Okay. It is far more distracting than we all want to admit. It is sending out light waves that interfere with our light wave production because it is unprotected technology. So if it were protected technology, it would be more like you said, more like our cell towers. So it also has a time-space stamp on it that does not evolve with our internal time-space equation. Roman numeral time, just about everything on TV is in the past, even most live TV is on delay.
Okay, so let's break down what we just talked to here.
Yeah.
The vagus nerve is tuned up and allows the I am to explore consciousness and the scale its size it's prepared for. In the example of mass meditations, there's the giant carrier wave of the celestial consciousness in which everyone has a bunch of different intentions, which creates the chaos or cacophony, which is its own key of creation, which allows a greater fractalization to make harmony, frequency, and vibration matches.
Okay.
Okay. Now, those harmony and frequency and vibration matches on a very big scale, humans are trying to always perceive, understand, and know and make absolute. That is the limitation of consciousness. There are levels of the experience that the consciousness cannot compute.
And feeling, add the feeling, because that's a biggie.
Yeah.
Feeling is not intuition, yeah? Feeling is not intuition.
I want everyone to think about that. How is feeling not intuition? Break that down in yourself. If you're a feeler, you feel and you're not using your intuition. You may think you're using your intuition. Intuition does not have an agenda. Feelings have an agenda. Your intuition is not always your knowingness. So Martina, what is intuition versus feeling for you? Because you're a feeler, and we had to break this down as an experience for you.
Absolutely, and I've been a feeler, all my life, and I've been proud of it too, because lots of feelers are proud of being feelers until they start acknowledging that it takes you out of infinite possibility, because it puts you into polarity. And yes, we are creating within polarity and duality within, this I am technology. So that's but there is another level of creation that is outside of that. And for instance, if you're a feeler, you're constantly, who wants to feel bad? Nobody. So you always go into the feeling of wanting to feel good, which then that creates the polarity that you're actually not necessarily getting the whole picture, what is available to you. And when you then start recognizing there is no good or bad feeling as such, that completely takes you out of judgment, puts you into choice, and opens infinite possibilities. So feelings, for me now, the way I understand it, are a limitation.
So somebody asked, what is the feeling of sacred neutral? There isn't one.
It's an oxymoron.
It's an oxymoron. So Paul, you're a feeler and have to define everything through feeling. That means the mind at some level overrides the heart, and at some level the heart overrides the mind, and they're not in resonance. Sacred neutral is a state of observation, an unentangled observer that has no agenda. It is simply there to perceive the information and cognitively understand it, but not create stories with it. All too often, we want to create stories with it and connect all this other stuff. That's the post being. Something else you do after you've had the experience. Being in the sacred neutral point of view is a living experience that has the potential to create powerful chemical memories, that can be powerful light memories that we can go back to and look at over and over and over and glean things in a non-sacred neutral state. We can have certain memories that we go back to only in the sacred neutral state. It is part of what are the skill, like why I'm so consistent with what I do. I can go back to the sacred neutral state because I know there are certain memories that I can only perceive and work with in the sacred neutral state.
Now, raw intuition does not use emotional data to create cognition.
Beautifully put. Expand on that. Expand on that.
Stolen it from you, really, but
I know.
But because it's interesting, when I started working with that, I started realizing that it was almost like the more you go sovereign neutral, where's my passion? This passion was what drove me, at least that's what I thought. you know. And then I realized I asked the question, what is beyond passion? And I will read that to you because there's no other way of saying that, because that one sentence that you gave me is a teaching in itself and the show in itself. So finding passion, and that links now the sovereign neutral and all of it together. So finding passion through the infinite, unlimited point of view without cognitive function behind it always puts you on the edge of the unknown and makes it easy for the unknown to become known.
That is an equation that you could pick apart and pick apart and pick apart. But when you see it for the written language it explains it all.
It explains it all. And you might want to transcribe that sentence. Finding passion through the infinite, unlimited point of view without trying to cognitize it. So for all the teachers out there, do not try to put everything in a teacher format, which was one of the biggest aha moments for me. And allow yourself to go towards the edge. You want to go to the edge of the unknowingness, because this is where the known becomes known. How does it get better than that? That is fantastic.
Okay. So people are beginning to get it. So when you're right on that edge of making the unknown known, there's no cognitive functions active there. You're the pure, sacred, neutral observer and experiencer.
Meaning what?
That's a state, that's a trust, but it's a state of beingness. That the I am is fully 100% in the vagus nerve, fully in the central nervous system, seen and unseen, sympathetic and parasympathetic. All programs are shut off, and it allows the experience to instantly create powerful chemical memories and powerful light memories that can have very long-lasting effects on the beingness, past, present, and future. Now
there's a question. You're talking, and I love when you talk about memories, because you don't even, you know, if you just come from a place of memory, look at the energy of the expansion of that word, because that includes all levels of influences, all levels of experiences, bad, good, sad, you know, the whole spectrum. Now, when you say memory, the distinction you make, the memory in chemical and the memory in light. So could you explain that a bit more for us?
Chemical memory. You're at work, somebody gives you a compliment, it's chemical memory. You have a mystical experience that defines the universe, that's a memory in light. There's a point in which the experience is so high in frequency, so high in vibration, and so high in harmony, chemicals can no longer because chemical is finite, it becomes an infinite experience stored in light memory that can be very bright for our consciousness. And it's very easy for our consciousness to tune into that bright light that is a floating memory in our fractalized, fractured, unfractured state of beingness.
So the light memory would be the memory we're looking at when we go into celestial medium, when we get out of the I-Am technology.
So cart before the horse, celestial medium is a series of experiences in light that has gone through the infinite validation that the finite being is the infinite being simultaneously, and the journey to being the medium is balancing finite, infinite over and over again.
Right. One more question to the chemical memory. Is that somehow related to the feeling?
Yes. So people who are stuck in programs are making chemical memories at a very low empowered state. That's why so many people, I don't remember my childhood. I don't remember this. And I say it with sarcasm. You can remember it. You just have to gain the power over the vagus nerve to realize that they're covered over and camouflaged with this low frequency vibration.
And there's another link to that now, to the physical body and to the dis-ease in the physical body, because the memory we used to talk about thought, but let's call it memory. The memory itself creating the chemical, and the chemical is impacting on the homeostasis of the physical body.
Correct. And then the homeostasis of the physical body is going to continue to produce memories at the finite chemical level. Sometimes you may have a powerful chemical memory, like really good sex or powerful victory in business, but it's not ecstatic euphoria last for months. Everyone has had some kind of experience that has truly motivated them. That's the finite, the difference between the finite and the infinite. It just lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, chemical memories, you can over-harvest them and lower their frequency. That's like being stuck on a state when you were super creative and you're going back to that state. You're harvesting that chemical memory over and over again to fuel the present. Light memories that have bypassed it, you can go back to that experience and it can refill your finite you over and over and over again.
That's interesting. We need to look at that at some stage, that over harvesting of a chemical memory there.
Which is the previous state of beingness, and the previous state of beingness is not the now.
No, exactly. That takes you out of, that puts you into limitation because it takes you out of the present moment.
Right.
Okay, so this is also now when we, just a reference back to the agencies, because there are agencies out there, well, all the agencies, they're looking for your state of presence, for you basically now exploring that as we just had, they're looking for your state of vibration, harmony, and frequency. And then they can match and bring into your life, because that's what they're supposed to be doing, right? Places, things, people, that are actually contributing to your life.
So I'm going to read the next part, and this is about time syncing. And you wanted to go deep into this, and we're going to. Good. Staffing agencies look at how present you really are. They see it as a time-space equation so they can match with you a being of similar resonance to your time-space equation. This is called time syncing. Once you are in time sync with an agency, it can contract for you people, places, things, objects, art pieces, anything that can create an experience that manifests as a memory with lasting expressions. Astrology is a big part of how the agents can work with people. It builds on what sticks in light memory, trauma memory. From there, a blueprint is formed. The system of domination and control looks to predict you the same way and tries to get you to work with its staffing agencies. Thus, why so many unprotected technologies are dangerous to the I-Am's growth, because they can time sync with you and pretend to be a high quality agency when they're really an Indian call scam person.
So so there's the question now, because when I listened to this, I thought, okay, so this is interesting. So there you're asking me, am I a match? This is a really cool question to ask, guys. Am I a match to this? And what does that actually mean? Because if you think you are a match to it, and you're not, it could actually work against you.
You're forcing a match.
You're forcing a match. So there's a couple of things. And the one thing, I just want to kick it off there, saying that we always talk about being a level of, or being responsible for the level of your awareness, right? Now, I want to add to this now. You have to take responsibility to be a match.
Bingo. Keep going.
Yeah. You have to start looking at, am I a match to this? And remind yourself, this is outside of the I-Am technology. This is outside almost of consciousness, what we are just saying, This is pure vibration, frequency, and harmony. Am I taking responsibility to be a match to that?
And in an understanding, how can an I-Am take responsibility without feeling?
Yes. Yes.
Okay? How does an I am take responsibility without feeling? I'm going to pose that to the audience that's listening here right now. 1 word and 2 word answers are just crap. Try to actually put some cognitive power behind it. Okay? So Martina, a match, as I said before, does not have cognitive functions behind it. And in most scenarios, whenever you're cognitively doing something, you're forcing a match. You are not in that state of emanation, allowing the natural ways of the universe to fractalize and align synchronization, harmony, and vibration with you. As long as we're controlling the outcomes, we've already missed the experience.
So from my experience, what that means when I started exploring that is 2 things. Oh, well, the first thing is non-judgment. You have to stay out of non-judgment, you know? You have to go into that space of infinite possibilities. And you cannot, look, you always use your mind, because the mind is connected to the heart. And that's obviously the link actually here, because let's, for instance, when you listen to a song, you know, and when I listen to a song, for me, it's like I can't hear the words. I have such difficulties to identifying the words, but I can feel it. When you feel it here, and all of a sudden, I don't know, you might have tears or joy or whatever comes out. That is almost that type. That's when you are a match to a vibration, to a frequency and a harmony. Is that a good example to use?
That is a good example. And obviously there are many ways to expand and explore it. But right now it's the base understanding. We don't want to be over teaching here. And there's a reason. This, for many of you, is your first draft. And you've got to cognitize it as a neutral being, as a being of charge and polarity, both. Why do you think they have to do that, Martina?
Cart before the horse. Why don't put the cart before the horse? Okay. You're asking me that? I do it all the time.
Yes.
because you're working, what? Because you're working with a technology, with an unprotected technology. And you don't actually know what the I am is capable of attracting or sending out, right? It's almost like you've got to understand the vehicle. It's not a vehicle, but the method, the mechanism of the way you create within, you know, your levels of awareness. We're still talking finite here, but the power of the technology is something we need to acknowledge. So as I said early on, you know, it's the 20%, it's just like, it's crazy. We just get hung up on awareness levels, and there's so much more to that. That's where spiritual hygiene comes in, isn't it? This is where all this healing business comes in. This is where, you know, we have to use all these practices to protect, but not from a fear perspective, but from an acknowledgement that we are potent.
We are so potent, we can outcreate something with a handful of manifested blinks if we believe in our potency with faith in ourself that has self-mastery, self-discipline, and self-love as its foundations.
And if you're not a match to that frequency, to that level of awareness that you're at, I can guarantee you come across very not authentic. Because it's almost like the signature, well, it's part of the signature frequency teaching, if you wish, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get into that. Let's get into
okay,
that.
So do you wanna run what signature? For me, signature frequency signature frequency teaching is exactly that. You know, the vibration. What are what sort of wavelength you are vibrating on, the frequency, the harmonics and everything, and is what you start attracting to you.
And that attraction process is aligning in an unseen world based off of raw frequency, raw vibration, raw harmony. And when our cognitive mind gets involved in it, we are forcing a match that is in our time-space equation, in which we might not be ready for that level of awareness. That's that instant gratification journey.
Yes, validation, outside validation. And there's a question. Have you ever come across somebody who is trying to match your signature frequency? What does that feel like?
Mm-hmm. Just
What does
the
it feel
dating
like?
world. The dating world.
Yeah. I used to call, the word incarceration for me, contains that. When you feel incarcerated, you feel this icky, sticky feeling that, the neediness that you can perceive. And that can be somebody forcing a signature frequency. No, not forcing the signature, but the fake forcing, help me out here, of trying to force themselves onto your signature frequency. Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of forced signature frequency match, that's what the system of domination and control uses as its foundation to make a prediction model, because you have a tacit consent and unknowingness to their forced match.
Yeah. Yeah. So tacit consent is a teaching in itself too,
Of frequency, vibration, and harmony, meaning you must own your unseen consenting process.
Exactly.
No answer is an answer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No change is still a choice. It's still change. No choice is still a choice, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. And at this level of exploration, you've got to start looking at that, because this is no longer curiosity learning. This is actually now taking responsibility for the match of your vibration and all the others, and the match of your, awareness.
Spiritual strategy.
Spiritual strategy.
That is an agenda in your time-space location, so things can naturally time sync with you and you not force them. Yeah. That's why people can't find that's why they can't find their perfect mate. How many callers have we heard? I'm lonely. I've tried and tried and tried, because you're forcing matches.
Forcing matches, yes. And it's not going to work, because it's not a feeling thing, it's not a cognitive thing, it's a energetic thing
that doesn't have the cognitive forcing behind it.
Exactly.
Now, the I-Am's purpose is to cognitize things in a time-space location that has access to its vagus nerve, to be equal to its level of awareness, so a series of experiences can transcend chemical memory, become powerful light memories that can allow us to remember things about us, the Great Remembering, during the Great Awakening, that is part of what? Ascension. Yes. Into higher states of beingness, while still present in this world that has all of these incoherent factors to them.
Multidimensional living, time traveling from one dimension all the way up into the ninth, and if you wish beyond, but ninth is good enough. And then working with that place of coherency. And I always like embodied spirituality, that's the level. And we're already starting to look beyond simultaneously, but this is the starting point. Embodied spirituality.
So somebody asked, what are incoherent factors? Our political system that has no representation, our voting system, rules and laws, banking, government, sexuality, all those things are incoherent factors, because they're all trying to force a match in a non-natural reality. We live in an unnatural reality of all unprotected technology with very little people that are responsible to their level of awareness, because we are not taught multidimensional living from birth, which is our birthright and legacy. All right, so I'm going to read the next part here, and this is about time syncing. Hold on, I overdid it. So staffing agencies work in multiple time-space equations. Agents inside the agencies are certified to work in a time or no time Some agents work with other uncertified agents or other time-space equations for the purpose of forcing a match, no matter how minute the match is. Agents and the agencies are separate. Think of agents as 1099 independent contractors who are contracted by an agent to do their work for someone else. Some agents are full-time employees of some agencies and 1099 outsourced contracts to others, like when a bank sells their products and bets against what they are selling you. Even though the karmic resolution machine has run its course, we as beings still are attempting to reincorporate our fractured selves, traumatized, charged perspectives. This allows the agencies to use those traumatic experiences as a perspective to match. What degree do these staffing agencies are operating nefariously or competing against each other, and their agendas are generally towards good, bad, neutral at this stage of the game? You mentioned that Archons are being on the low end of the spectrum. How has our current growth impacted these procedures, policies collectively? And to follow this up, are these agencies still interacting with the existing manifested beings of the now in different ways if the new feed is coming in? The answer to this is yes, they are still working with you in the now. Islam's domination control is a system in which we are forced to accept on tens of millions of layers, seen and unseen. We will be dealing with agents, and contracted agents of agencies who have 3 degrees of separation from the responsibility of the destruction it may cause because somebody who's not equal to their level of awareness during a time of great awakening. Now, we oftentimes get callers who life is in a mess. And I give this common answer: self-healing, self-mastery, self-discipline is how you build your stairway out of despair. When you're dealing with any negative agents, entity whatsoever, you have to do the inner work. But so many people resist doing the inner work. So Martina, let's talk about the resistance of inner work and building that solid foundation to be high frequency vibration match without forcing it.
Oh, there's so many ways to go into this. I mean, why do people resist? You know, again, it's quite interesting because for me, I come from a place of if something doesn't work, I'll change it. So all my life, every challenge that came towards my way, I looked at it, what can I learn through this? So I had a big awakening in terms of not everybody thinks that way.
Yes.
You know? And that was something that I actually could not cognitize, you know, because for me, it's like, when something doesn't work, you change it, that type of stuff. And then, of course, you know, there is the type of challenge which you go back to because there's still something to learn as such. And learning is becoming now a limitation too, because we have to go beyond learning, because we have to go beyond the cognitized way of perception. Now,
also many times we have to go through an unlearning phase, because there's something we learned that has created such a disharmoniance and disresonance to our level of awareness, being responsible to it.
And it's also, it's an acknowledgement that this reality is a learned reality. Yep. Every definition equals a limitation at the same time. And having said that, you know, we're working in the field of plenty. Okay, so that's also a coin that you have phrased there. In the field of plenty, the infinite possibilities. Now, in order to maintain a level of interaction and live happily, joyfully, abundant, you have to grow this garden and create some borders, you know, and plant those seeds. We had that conversation in order to actually make the most out of living. And living it's not living life. We are here to be joyful and to be abundant, you know, and not just to have one challenge after the other. So to be honest, to answer your question, it's a choice. If you don't want to be happy and joyful, well, then stay the hell where you are. But if you do want to go to a level of, if you do want to go to the edge of the unknowingness, You can't go there with your bloody baggages on, because you're never going to go there. You're never going to reach the edge of unknowingness. So you've got to let go of all the backpacks of shit that you've been carrying around forever, so that you can perceive the lightness and take yourself in onto the next level. And that is healing in every single form: self-mastery, emotional mastery, spiritual hygiene, all of that stuff. I mean, it's almost boring now. If you haven't done it by now, why are you listening?
Exactly.
And I'm not
because it makes them feel good. And because so many people label themselves empath, wear the badge of I'm a motherfucking empath, and live that empath life, never realizing that that's the limitation.
Yeah, and this is not coming from a place of judgment, okay? And I've also been a martyr of Jesus, all my life, and I never really perceived it as I really truly thought I was doing good, until I had to acknowledge that with all this goody doing, I was sick. And I think this is a very good way of looking at it. If your body is physically in this ease, then you have a very good indication that whatever you're doing is not working. If you don't have a level of abundance in your life, be that now money or joy or happiness, you're doing something, it's not working. And then you can look at it and say, well, how can I turn this around? And I mean, what I've probably done in my life, I've done it the other way around. I've done all this bullshit, like, successful businesswoman and being a mom and being a wife and all of that. So I can now use the next level to use all that and turn it into a teaching. And at this stage, my level of awareness and my responsibility is no longer actually, because I've been teaching for a long time now. And I've been assigned this teacher program. Now it's a matter of take time out. What is my next level? What is my next vibrational match that I don't have to shout out? I don't have to share. I don't have to tell people, just for me, just for fun, not to tell anyone.
That doesn't have to be regurgitated because I'm the teacher.
Yeah. So yes.
So next level means going to the level on the edge of unknowingness, not being afraid, not forcing an answer, not being an instant gratification, not being an expectation, being the self-mastered, realized I am being who's driving the technology of DNA experience with the intention, without expectation, of just creating a powerful memory and light. No more.
And what better perfect situation that we have right now, with there is so much uncertainty out there. Nobody knows where this is going. This is the perfect timing for all of us to go inside and play with that unpredictability, with that unknowingness, and go to the edge of it. So how do we do this, Andrew?
Disconnecting that we have to do it from everyone else first. I see someone in the chat room, thoughts and perceptions out loud. I acknowledge that I have to change my every detail of my life. No, you don't. Too much, too fast. Because I want to be the best I can be for myself and the whole of humanity and beyond, because I am holding us back. You're not holding us back. That is the illusion the Lightworker created community has imprinted in you out of tacit consent. It's an individual journey, never meant to be on a collective journey. And you've been lied to by all of those other teachers and presenters that saying it's a collective, we do it all at once and you got to do it for everyone. You do it for yourself out of self-mastery, self-responsibility, discipline, nothing else. It is not a selfish negative karma to do that.
No, and it's also, to give the picture here, it's the old saying, it's like when you have your coffee cup and the foam is that thick on top of it, then you can share, the foam if you wish. But you will don't ever go below and share what you haven't got. Your cup needs to be full, because that's when you become the leader.
Of yourselves. The precognitive workforce who's there to align synchronicity, frequency, vibration, and harmony without you cognitively forcing it.
And everything becomes ease. And I'm not saying easy, and I'm not saying there's no work behind that. And I'm not saying it's just going to happen. No, but whatever you will be doing will be ease and joy. And you'll have fun. I mean, I've been transcribing this thing. You know how long this took me to transcribe? A long time. Because, and I can't even remember anything, we were actually saying. And you have to reread it again. But this is where the passion comes in. You don't even know why you're doing it, because it feels good. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, then don't do it. Okay? Maybe now is not the time. Maybe there's something else you need to do. Or maybe it's just not for you. And allow yourself that too. That's the taking responsibility for the level of awareness.
And once you take responsibility to your level of awareness and truly cognify what that means, your state of beingness is equal to your level of responsibility. If I'm a sacred neutral observer, charge and polarity does not internally exist and cannot stick to me from external projection sources. When I change my beingness and I'm no longer the sacred neutral perception, the rules of charge and polarity may stick, may not stick, based off of how much self-work, self-healing, and self-nurturing I've done to not allow external sources to alter my course of perception and perspective.
Yes, and also, you're never at an equilibrium level of awareness. You do go up and down. That's what's called balance too. So, be aware of that. If something does stick you, well, look at that. And then unstick yourself, choose something different. There is that level of where, everything does just become a choice at the end of the day. And sometimes, trial and error, why not?
Mm-hmm. And that trial and error is part of creating experiences in chemical memory that become powerful light memories.
Exactly. And that is part of duality. And I remember you saying, I think on the last show with Dave, where you said, when does duality become singularity? Well, probably never, because you will be working simultaneously in singularity and in duality, in and out, in and out. I suppose that's what we're doing already, constantly.
Like a pendulum.
Exactly. So, and this is sometimes we have these weird expectations, what spirituality and what awakening and ascension and all that means. At the end of the day, you got to look at it from a slightly less expectation and projection perspective, and just say, so how do I feel? Not feel, but what is it right now? Mm-hmm. And what else is possible from there?
Okay. So what I want to do now is talk to the section of audience that is faux internal workers. Now, faux means you're not really doing the work. You're pretty much not putting a lot of effort behind it. You believe you are. You've got all that placebo belief. I've done my meditation, but that's all I'm really doing. How do you get out of low power action and begin the journey to high powered action? It starts with responsibility to be in your body, to know if I am in resistance to it, I should not be doing it. But if your resistance goes on for days, weeks, months, and years, then there's something wrong with the resistance that is a program. There are times to do ceremony and inner work and times not to. All too often, many members of this audience overdo the work and never stop. And hear me ask them, what do you do for just fun? Everything you can overdo, you can underdo. And finding that unique intermediary process is discipline. So for those that are the faux self-workers, you have to ask yourself every day, what am I doing that is something new, that brings me on my level, right to the level of unknowingness, that I can cognitively apply out of an agenda and choice, but to not force a match? What is natural evolution for me? It may just be I get in the car and drive. And that's just enough motion to get you out of the groove, the wagon ruts you've been stuck in. All too often, people that are in the faux action, they go to do a bunch of spiritual stuff and they get a spiritual injury. And then they can't go back and do it. Or they feel shame, blame, and guilt for not doing it for the last 6 months. So that journey for you faux people is going, I'm on the edge of my unknowingness. I'm turning off my programs. I'm allowing the joy of being present. I am choosing responsibility of the self to allow my internal source being to help direct me through synchronicities. So what do you have to add to that, Martina? For the faux people out there.
Well, it's so familiar to me because you just know there is the edge, you know? Somehow you can perceive the edge there and you just want to get there because you know it's something you've come here for, you know? It's that knowingness. And I can guarantee you when you get to the level of exploration that we are talking and you're really taking the time and you're looking at the different teachings and everything, you actually start feeling that content and that freedom within yourself that allows you to find joy and happiness in the most mundane things. And embodiment, being a human being, becomes so joyful, you know, and everything is just relationship and children and, you know, everything, whatever you want to achieve, whatever you want to enjoy, you can enjoy, you know, by just knowing. For me, that was the main thing. I needed to know what that is, the bigger picture. And then everything just becomes, anything you do is having a cup of tea or having this or that. Can you be in the moment with a cup of tea?
Without a forced agenda of experience.
Exactly. And that's why you got to switch. You got to mix it up. I got to mix it up because, you know, I'm like a compulsive creator. So I need to mix it up. And I get discontent when I don't have different things going on. So I always say to people, when you get to that stage, when you start procrastinating about one particular thing, add something else to your life. Just like what Andrew said, you know, do something completely different. Go like a lady or somebody was saying, dancing, or, you know, or do yoga or just get drunk or something, whatever, you know, just add something to mix it up and enjoy life.
Exactly. So we've just got a limited amount of time left. Martina, do you want to give people a way to get a hold of you and some of the stuff you've got upcoming with your meeting groups?
Yeah. We've created a community website, a co-creation website, which is called earthnouveau.com, which is a group of 5 people, and we are the 5 people that had we stayed together. We were students of Andrew's work and still are, obviously, and we got together to create a website, and we are doing weekly Zooms where we are exploring consciousness, you know, and sometimes we have a topic, most of the times we do, and sometimes we just take questions, we do facilitations, we just, you know, share the information for whoever wants to come and explore it with us. So that's you can find that on the earthnouveau.com, and we always put the audios and everything onto that. For myself at the moment, I'm in an out creation phase. I've got my website is synchholistic.co.uk. But I'm in an out creation phase at the moment of working on a new website. But you can find me there if there's anything, you know.
Can you type them into the chat room there?
Okay.
Yeah, you're talking a little too fast.
Okay. I don't know why I'm going in a private thing when I chat.
Clicked on the down arrow and it'll scroll up where it says everyone. And for everyone that's private messaging me, I get like 3,000 private messages every chat. It scrolls by so fast I can't answer your private messages.
Right. I don't know how to get rid of that.
down arrow where it says, is it got a person's name there? Click the down arrow just above that and scroll all the way up.
Yeah.
It'll say
Okay, cool.
everyone in meeting.
Everyone in meeting. Okay, cool. Okay, well, let me write that down. So that's the Earth Nouveau one. And that is in nouveau.com. And syncholistic.co.uk. That's mine. And that's it. That's where you can find us.
And then you're on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Facebook and all of that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening in. We'll be back this coming Thursday for another really advanced show during your last of your lockdown before lockdown might come back again. All right, everyone. We'll see you this coming Thursday. Martina, hang on the line, Martina.
Okay. Cheers, guys. Bye. Thank you.
Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge, it's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.